Okay, so when you go into the online application form, the first thing that you will see is the page 1, which is an introduction to the Southeast Asia's sport and youth crime prevention. As Namsan said, this is the webinar number 2. Last week, we did an introduction webinar where we explain in more detail the different components and the objectives of this initiative. We introduced the partners. So I'm not going to go too much into the detail because that webinar was also recorded and will be uploaded later today to the Alliance of Sport website. James, would you mind to put in the chat the link to where the video will be uploaded? So then people can also copy the link and have a look later today. So I'm not going to go too much into the detail because I prefer this session to be focused specifically on the application form and run you through all the questions that you will encounter in the next few weeks. But in a very brief nutshell, the Southeast Asia Sport and Youth Crime Prevention Initiative is a program that was initiated by the International Olympic Committee and the French Agency for Development, and it is coordinated by the Alliance of Sport in Criminal Justice. We also have today in the webinar James Mapstone from the Alliance of Sport, and he will be also available at the end of the session to answer questions if is needed. Hello, James. So the purpose of the So the purpose of the initiative is to work in collaboration with different national, regional, and international organizations with the ultimate objectives of youth crime prevention through sport by establishing and building safer and more resilient communities. So the key components of the project, or the key ideas, is the use of sport as a tool for building safer and more resilient communities, and to work with young people who is at risk to being involved in crime or in gangs. So ultimately preventing and reducing youth crime. The initiative is focused in 4 countries in Southeast Asia. This is Lao PDR, the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam. There are different components in the projects that involve building national and regional networks to work together, create insight, create lasting impact, and also to inform policy development in the region and in the 4 countries. There will be a component around capacity building and learning experiences for the organizations involved. And there is obviously the component that we are talking today, that is grant making. So this is about providing funding to organizations. We are aiming to fund at least 2 organizations per country. And applications and programs that are directly involved or directly will be contributing to the objectives of this initiative. So having said all that, who is Laureus and what is our role here? So we are a global charity that was what our mission is to support children and young people by using sport to end violence, discrimination, and inequality worldwide. We were founded in the year 2000 under the patronage of Nelson Mandela. And over the 25 years, we have been building our grant-making experience and supported hundreds of organizations all over the world and contributed to change the lives of more than 6 million children and young people. So our contribution and our other value to this project is this experience that we have in grant-making and how to use sport to achieve social change. So our role would be leading the review, the due diligence, and the selection of funding applications. For those organizations that are selected, the grantees, they will be signing a contract with us, with Laureus, and we will be the ones in charge of deploying the funds to those successful organizations. We will also provide technical support and guidance across the delivery of the programs from until the end of the project. And we will be reviewing and approving and providing feedback to the interim and the final report submitted by the grantees. So as we said before, the main objectives of this call for applications is to create safe, inclusive, and resilient communities, and ultimately aiming to youth youth crime, the prevention of youth crime and reduction of youth crime. And we want this to happen through sport. So as I said before, those are the key components. So we, from our experience and evidence base, we know that sport promotes inclusion, education, well-being, and helps leadership in young people. And those are protective factors that we consider are important to contribute to positive youth development and to building safer communities. Particularly for these initiatives, we have adopted a three-tiered informing evidence approach to crime prevention. Those three tiers are primary, secondary, and tertiary intervention. So we will be expecting any application that is submitted to us to contribute directly to at least one of these levels of intervention, the primary, secondary, or tertiary. So the primary intervention are those that are using sport to build resilience, promote inclusion, and ultimately, and very importantly, again, to prevent youth from becoming involved in violence and crime, sorry. The secondary intervention will be those programs that are more focused on targeting youth that are at most risk of offending. And that would be young people who is already starting to flirt with gangs or to start some approach to offending or to be in conflict with the law. So these are those that are considered as a greater risk, and initiatives should be using sport to address the causes of that situation and to create and strengthen factors that are going to help young people to change behaviors and to have more positive choices. The tertiary intervention is those ones that are specifically focused on young people that is already in conflict with the law, or that have been already been in prison, that are already involved in gangs. So the programs will be focused on rehabilitation, on behavior change, and in long-term desistance from crime. And as I said, all applications must select at least one of these primary interventions, and the activities and the objectives of the application should be directed to at least one of these three tiers. So then we are looking for applications that are directly linked with the prevention of crime, that ideally that they already have experience in working with young people that are at greater risk, and that they already have experience using sport as a tool to prevent violence and as a tool for youth development. So we go to the next page, and Nanthan, can you just remind people about the timelines?
Sure. So our program is already launched on the course of applications on the websites on the 1st of July. But yeah, like we mentioned that the webinar number 1 and number 2 are ongoing, and the deadline to submit the applications is on the 17th of August. Is on Bangkok time 23:59. And can you scroll down a little bit, please? So the communication to select candidate would be on the estimatedly 15 September, and the grant starting period would be estimatedly on the October 2025. Can you go to the next pages, please? So I will go through a little bit on the eligible criteria. As Elena mentioned, that eligible country would be 4: Lao PDR, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam, and do required some of that eligible criteria, as like you need to be regularly registered as a non-profit, social enterprise, or sport organization in the countries, and have the relevant permissions and legal authorizations. Go up, please.
Yeah.
And could be had been operational for at least 3 years. 2 years, and demonstrate on the strong local presence with the communities, and you have the experience on receiving the fundings from external donors, and make sure that you are able to do the capacity to manage large-scale projects, and need to be committed delivering the project in 18 months periods, and need to be legally independent on the accounting system, and also must not engage or affiliate with religious proselytisms, demonstrate on the proven experience, and be a like I mentioned, 18 months of projects that you need to be able to start a project deliveries after the grants had been awarded. And for the relevance, like the tiers that Elena mentioned, that you need to be at least have a clear objectives and activities that clear aiming with the missions initiative. Yes, and most importantly, include sport as a tool to achieve social outcome. And you can have more information, visit our website, related documents, and justify on the target populations and also geographic areas. Highlight the collaborations and demonstrate potential long-term impact or scalabilities. On the fundings, request funding might not exceed 40% of the lead organization and no budgets. I will explain you later on that lead organization stuff. The co-fundings, and in terms of you more than one organization that working together, we'll also explain on that budget things. Can you go down to equities and inclusion, please? Okay, so the project needs to be specified on gender equality, diversity, inclusions, human rights, safeguarding, sustainability, and accessibility across aspects of the project designs and delivery, and must need to have youth center as participatory approach, and also apply the do no harm, target on children and young people from marginalized background. Next one is the monitoring, evaluations, and learning. Application should include with that, we will call it short MEL, to ensure that social outcomes and that would be measures and would be tracked and report. Should include the key indicators and data collection methods and timeline in the projects. And if in the application state that we need the simple MEL plan, we don't need like super complicated one, and should be better if you do the capacity building will be provided on that selected applications after the selection periods. And if we also open for your own MEL plans, if you can submit it to us and we can have a look, or otherwise you can use the Laureus versions that we also attach on the website as well. Next is ineligible activities. The following will not be considered for funding is the humanitarian or immediate crisis response projects. And surely the project surely focus on infrastructures and only sport activities. Next page, please. All right, we'll go through a little bit on the instructions to the application form. So this form only in online applications only, and the application form would be not allowed to accept in terms of words or PDF sent on the email, because we designed the template for you that we're showing you right now. And also we recommended you to do the offline.
Process luôn rồi.
Sorry. Okay. We encourage you to do the offline as well. Like you can share the documents with the teams, and after the consolidate of the data, you can put it online. And also Radius also develop the save my progress and resume later that you can keep coming and to fulfill the unsuccessful data, because you can see that a lot of pages on the online application form. And delivery timeline would be 18 months. estimate start over will be October 2025. And
Làm tầng B.
next, sorry, I'll try to mute. Okay. The next one is the type of applications that we have two types of applications like collective impact grants and single organization impact grants. So for collective impact grant would be a group of organizations that work together like collaborative grants, and estimate budget would be started from 80,000 euro to 150,000 euro. And the individual impact grants would start at from 50,000 to 80,000. So that we like I mentioned before about the co-funding, that we kind of encourage applicants to seek the co-fundings if it's possible, to make sure that demonstrate the local ownerships and sustainabilities. Language of the application form will be English only, but also we develop and translated the application form, the eligibility criteria, and budget sheets and some related stuff to be in your own language for better understanding, so you can have a look. And yeah, would be welcome to use your own languages, but it would be great if you use English because it's easy for us to generate the data. And next one is mandatory trainings and events that will be scheduled tentatively on November 2025 in Bangkok, which is like 5 days, and make sure that if you ask, on the budget sheet, you might need to add the covered travel, accommodations, and travel allowance on the budget sheet as well. And also the grant team, they had on the Learning and Insight Conference on the early 2027 also need to be added on the budget sheets. Next one, glossaries of terms in terms of lead organizations. If you applied it in the collective impact grants, the lead organization would be the one organization that submit all the application on behalf of the groups. So you will be the one who's signing the contracts. And yeah, I think better share the budget sheet later on the details of that collective impact grants and single lead organizations. And as the roles and responsibilities that you can see that submit the application forms and required due diligence document required the process of the checking background, and sign the contract, draft the signed agreement, implementing partners, and oversee and lead the consortiums, serve the main point of contact as a fund managers. Yeah, I think that's detail. We can go on to see the roles and responsibility. Next page, please. For the submitting period, yeah.
Next page?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So the supporting document checklist, we require you to attach the document on the application form where we run through it together, and to make sure that would be great as well if you submit it in English, but also if you don't have the English version, it's better to have the translated one. And we require you the governing documents of your organization, the constitution, trust deed, memorandum of understanding, MOU, article of associations, and certificates of registration to show that your organization is already registered with the country that the project will be implemented. And next one is safeguarding policies regarded to safeguarding children, young peoples, and vulnerable adult policy. So if you have that and that already approved in your organization, just attach it. But if you don't have one, you must need to commit that you will do it at the first 6 months of the projects. Last 3 years of annual account to make sure that you are already have the financial procedures and must need to be the produce the annual account at least 2 years. And budget sheet templates we can share. You can use our designing for the project as well. But if you have that in organization, you can share with us. Next one is MEL, the monitoring, evaluation, learning frameworks. Please attach on your program to assess and to be your indicator. But if you don't have one, you can use that to our designing MEL framework that is like aligned with the SYCP Initiative theory of change, that you can use your own templates or you can use L'Oreal's design template as well. Next one is with assessments. We'll need to do that for your program, including mitigation measurements. So after all of that, the document that we share here, if your application is pre-approved, you will get in touch with us to asking for more documented to do the due diligence process before the grant agreements with the fund managers with us. I think it's next one is yours, Elena's.
Yeah, thank you, Nantam. Thank you very much. I just wanted to mention or add a little bit more about the monitoring, evaluation, and learning framework. We will accept monitoring evaluation frameworks on your own templates. If you already have one at your organization that works for you, and that you already have an existing one with whatever template you have, you can upload that one with your application. So we're not asking you to send a monitoring evaluation framework specifically in our template. However, we do have a template for those organizations that prefer using ours, that they don't have already a monitoring evaluation framework in place, or that they think that our template is better for the purpose of this project. The monitoring evaluation framework template is uploaded on the Alliance of Sport website and has been uploaded in English and also translated to the languages of the 4 countries. So it is up to you if you want to submit your own framework or submit your framework in that template. The only thing that is important is whatever you put in the monitoring evaluation framework, as Nantan said, doesn't have to be very complicated, because once the project starts, there will be training and there will be work with those organizations that have been approved to strengthen and revise the monitoring evaluation frameworks and to align better with the purposes of the application. But it is important that at least we see that there is a clear alignment between the objectives, the indicators, and the activities on your program, and that those are aligned with the tiers that we described earlier, the primary, secondary, or tertiary, the one that you select, and also with the theory of change. The theory of change of the initiative is also uploaded in the Alliance of Sport website, and we strongly recommend everyone to read that theory of change and familiarize with it. We do not expect programs to align with everything in the theory of change, but at least with one of the sections, and to contribute ultimately to the final objectives of the theory of change. So just to clarify about that, because I saw already a couple of questions about the monitoring evaluation framework. So we are not giving you specific instructions on how to do it. We just want organizations to be free to submit whatever is easier for them in terms of monitoring evaluation. So whatever you have in place. But if you don't have anything, you can use our template. So then moving on with now that we passed all the introduction pages, once you move on, you will see here a couple of questions about where you're applying to. So this is just easily, you just have to click on Southeast Asia Sport and Youth Crime Prevention Initiative, and selecting also the type of grant, whether if you are applying as the lead organization of a collective impact grant, or if you're applying as a single organization impact grant. The next page, all this section, is about details of your organization. So I don't think there is anything here very complicated, but it's about the legal name of the organization, the type of organization that you are. You will see that we are accepting applications from international nonprofits, national nonprofits, for community-based organizations, sport clubs, social enterprises. And if your organization is another type of organization, just click here and describe it, okay? And then just asking a few questions about your website and just confirm that you are registered in the country where the program is going to be implemented. That is very important, that the lead organization is registered. in the country where the program is going to be implemented. So just provide as well your registration number. And as we said before, there are a few documents that we would like you to submit, and those are mandatory. So there is the registration certificate of the organization and the governing documents. So you can upload it in these buttons here. And then if your application is approved, we need you to confirm that you will be able to deliver activities in the country that you have selected, and that you will be able to deliver activities from October, more or less, 2025. The question 2.218, to have all the necessary permissions, is because we know that in some countries you need to have permission from the government to deliver activities or to implement projects, particularly in some themes. So just make sure that you are meeting all the requirements in your country to be able to deliver activities and start it in October 2025. Then we add you a little bit more details about the chief executive or executive director of your organization, and then the languages in which you operate, your address, telephone number, etc. And here is the contact details of the person who is submitting the application. So if we have any question or if it's anything that we need clarification, we can get in touch with you. And here in this section, we are continuing asking you a little bit of questions about your organization to understand a little bit more about how you work and who you are. If you are applying as a collective impact grant, then this section only has to be filled by the lead organization, the one who is submitting the application. And if you're applying as a single organization impact grant, so this section is for you as well. It is important that your bank account is set up to receive funds from the UK. This is because Laureus is an organization based in the UK, so we will be sending the funding from here. So just make sure that your account is set up to receive funding, ideally in euros and from abroad. And then if your organization is a branch of a larger organization, so then we ask you a few questions to explain a little bit more about that, and who is the parent organization and your relationship with them. And then we also want to know about the mission and vision of your organization. So what is the work that you do? And if you have any video, this is completely optional of course, but if you have any video that in a few seconds or minutes talks about the work that your organization is doing, and you think that it would be a good thing for us to look at it and understand better how you work, so then you can include here the link of the video. Just put links and don't upload videos itself, because they usually are very heavy and then they will not be uploaded. So just a link. And then here, so the collaborating organizations, this section is only for those who are applying as a collective impact grant. Okay, and here we want to understand a little bit more about the other organizations, the collaborating organizations that are involved in the project. These are all mandatory for those who are submitting the application as a collective impact grant. Okay, so then we want to know also as well what is the legal name of the collaborating organization, the type of organization that they are, etc. So it's just a few questions for us to understand a little bit who the collaborating organizations that are involved in the program are. And after answering these questions, you have here a button where you can add more. So you just click there and you can include as many other collaborating organizations as you wish. After that, one thing that is important, you can click here to save the progress of your application and then continue later, okay? But as Namtan said earlier, it is also usually advised by us to use the offline application form, the ones in the different languages and in Word that we have uploaded to the Alliance of Sport website. It's easier to work together as a team with other members of your organization in a Word document, perhaps, where you can do the draft and delete and make changes as much as you want. And then once you are all happy with your application, copy and paste into the online. It will make things easier for you, but you can save your progress if you prefer to work directly on the online form. So this section here is about safeguarding children and young people, because the programs that we are looking for will have a specific group targets, young people and potentially children as well. So it is very important for us that the organizations have in place policies and protocols to ensure that children and young people are safeguarded and there are no harm for them. However, we do understand that having a safeguarding policy and having all the protocols in place is not yet common in all countries all over the world, and that there are organizations that still don't have safeguarding policies, so the ones that they have are still not at the highest standards of quality. That is fine, so we still want you to fill in this section, and if you don't have a safeguarding policy, it's fine, but you wanted we want you to commit to have one in place and work with us during the first 6 months of the delivery of the program to after those 6 months to have a safeguarding in place. And it will be the organizations working with the Alliance of Sport, the IOC and the AFB, and who will provide training and support and safeguarding, just to ensure that all organizations and all grantees are up to speed safeguarding children and young people. Still, we want you to answer all these questions. And for those who are submitted collective impact grants, we also want you to tell us what is the agreement that you have with them in terms of safeguarding. So if they are committing to your safeguarding policy, and if you have agreed together on a safeguarding plan. We don't need to go through all the details at this stage. We'll probably ask you more questions later on if you are pre-selected, but at this stage we just need to have confirmation that is commitment to work with lawyers and with the other organizations involved in this initiative in having the highest standards of safeguarding at your organization. This section here is all about governance. So here is where we want to go a little bit more in depth on understanding how your organization is managed and the capacity of your organization to deliver. Again, if you're applying as a collective impact grant, this is only for the lead organization. We don't need to have here the details of the collaborating organizations. However, if you are pre-selected, we might have to ask you to share more information about the collaborating organizations later on a second stage, but only if you are shortlisted. So here we would like to understand what are those communities or the target groups that your organization usually works with. So this could be that your organization is specializing working with young people, with children, with women, with refugees, with people with disability, etc. So just explain to us a little bit here who those target groups are. And this question is important, you will see later, because we also want to know about your board of directors, of trustees in your organization. So you just have to select if you have a board of trustees. And if you don't have one, then you will need to explain us a little bit about how your organization is managed and governed. But once you say yes, that you have trustees, we would like for you to tell us from this menu here, how much do you think that your trustees are representative from the representatives of the target groups that you are working with? So for instance, if you are working with people with disabilities, do you have trustees in your organization that are people with disabilities? Or if you are working with young people, is any youth voice represented in your board of trustees? And then you explain here your score, your selected score. Yeah, so here we will ask you to insert here only numbers about the staff in your organization. So how many men or young people, women, transgender, non-binary, gender expansive. We will ask this question in different sections of the application form. It is not mandatory for you to disclose that information. We understand that not in all contexts and countries might be safe for people to disclose if they belong to transgender, non-binary groups. If you know that, it will be important for us to have that data because it will help us to understand better the levels of inclusion and how organizations are working to be more inclusive of transgender and non-binary people. But if you do not have that information, that's fine. And here you only have to include 2 0. Then we ask you also about full-time, part-time staff, volunteers, etc. And the totals are calculated automatically. And we also want you to rate how representative your staff is from those target groups that your organization work with. If you have a gender or equity policy, just tell us here. And then at the end, you will be also able to upload it. So if you have any documents that you think are relevant and important for us to read to understand your organization better, just please upload them also at the end. And here we want to know the total number of direct participants that your organization usually works with. So we can refer to, for instance, to the last year, okay? So this is for us to have an idea of what is the reach of your organization. Usually how many people are the targets or the beneficiaries, that the participants that you reach. And they are selected by gender and selected by ages as well. Okay, so this section is a fun one. It's about finances for us to understand what is the capability of your organization to manage funds. So you will see a series of questions where we want you to run us through how you manage funding in your organization. So questions, for instance, about how payments are authorized in your organization and who is involved and what are the different roles and responsibilities that they are involved. So from the approval of budgets to the approval of the payments, to delivering the payments, etc. Also, we want to know how budgets are designed and approved, who is involved on the design of the budgets, how frequently your bank accounts are reconciled. So how frequently you check your bank accounts with the money and the transactions that you have been doing and your budgets, etc. This one is about reserves policy. So reserves policy, just to clarify, if someone doesn't know what a reserves policy is, that could be a policy. A reserves policy doesn't need to be a very big document. It could be just a couple of paragraphs in your finance manual, for instance, or in your finance guidance. But it's about the cash that your organization has in the bank that will ensure that you will be able to cover all normal running costs and salaries in the theoretical case that all your funding is stopped. So how long can the organization survive without receiving any funding from your donors? Will you be able to pay your staff salaries, to pay the utility bills, and to pay the rental of the building for 3 months or 6 months? So then that is the information that we need you to include here. And then if you have any insurance, and then here in your local currency, select from here what your currency is. Sorry, this is probably a little bit too much. So the system just included currencies from all over the world, but just trying to find yours. And in your own local currency, we would like you to include total figures, or more or less approx figures of the income that your organization receives in the last year. So income that is self-generated, that could be because you sell merchandising or because you do external consultancy, funding that you receive from public institutions, from private businesses, or from trusts and foundations. And in the same way, we also will ask you to include the best that's possible, or the best knowledge that you have about your annual expenditure. So how much money of your annual budget is about human resources, how much is going for office and admin cost, for travel, equipment, etc. And then here, as Namtan mentioned earlier, one of the documents that we would like you to submit is the latest 3 years of your audited accounts. If your organization is not, for your organization is not mandatory to have your accounts audited, then that is fine, just let us know. And you can submit just simply the financial reports that you annually submit to your board of directors, and that they are approved by your directors. So if your accounts are audited, then that will be great. But if they are not audited, at least just share with us your internal finance annual reports. And then here, if you are submitting this application as an impact collective grant, please just share with us how you are planning to send funding to the collaborating organizations, and how you will be ensuring that they are using the funds adequately. So what are going to be the monitoring the monitoring that you have for the funds used by your partners. This section is about your bank details. Page. And here is where we are going to dig about the design of your program. So we would like you to put a name to your program and then select in which country this is going to be delivered. As we mentioned in the previous webinar, and just clarifying here again, we're looking for programs based in one single country. So this call for applications is not being designed for multi-country projects. So please select one of the 4 countries that have been prioritized. We will like you to tell us in which cities or in which areas of the country you're going to deliver the project and why. So just justify briefly why these have been selected, because they have specific high rates of youth crime or for any other reason, and just justify why those areas have been selected. And going back to the beginning of the session, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, primary prevention, secondary intervention, tertiary intervention. So you can select one or more of these ones, but regardless if you select only one or more than one, just make sure that the design of your project is really aligned with the tiers that you have selected. You can also tell us the amount that you're applying to, between 80,000 and 120. I think that it was 150. Sorry. Okay. I will clarify that in the questions and answers document that we will upload to the Alliance of Sport website later this week. And the minimum and maximum you're applying as a single organization. Just a note that the amounts are estimate. Then it will depend on the assessment of the applications, on the quality of the applications, that the assessors will decide and discuss with you ultimately what is going to be the amount that we actually grant. So it could be the one that you are applying for, it could be a different amount, it could be a little bit up or below the minimum and maximum of this budget. So these are just estimates. And in the amount, please make sure that you only include numbers, no symbols or anything. And in this other one, just select here the euros. I think that these questions are okay. And then the co-financing again. So Namtan mentioned it at the beginning, but we would like you to tell us if we are covering the 100%. Well, this shouldn't be glorious. We are doing this on behalf of the ISA and the AFD. But if the initiative is covering the 100% of the budget of the project, or if you are providing some co-financing. So if there is a co-funding, please enter the amount of the requested funding that represents against the total of the program. So if you are secured 20% of the total budget, or if you are secured 10% of the total budget. The co-financing is not mandatory, but is strongly encouraged. And when we do the assessments of the applications received, we will consider and value those that are contributing with some co-financing. This could be funding from other donors, funding from the organization, or they could be also in-kind contributions, meaning that you are contributing with some salaries of the people that is going to be involved, or with other in-kind means. And here is for you to upload your budget. And the budget template is on the Alliance of Sport website as well, and in English and translated to the different languages. And Namtan will run you a little bit more in detail through the budget in a few minutes. So now about the program design. So here is just for you to give us a summary of the description of your program. So if we read these first sections, we should have a lot of clarity of what the program is about. So make sure that you provide enough details for us to understand what the project is about, considering that then other details are going to be asked later on. Okay, so just a summary, but bear in mind that the assessors, as we are going to be reading your project, we don't know you, we don't know your work, we have never heard about this program before, and we don't know the context. So in this section here, we should have a little bit of a clarity on what is it that the program is going to be about. And then the next question should provide more details and information to better understand, but this question is important here. In 9.2, this is about the need of your program. So here you should explain us why your program is relevant. So try to provide data or analysis from pieces of research that your organization has done or reports from other organizations, excuse me, about what are the risks and the challenges that the group is facing in relation to crime and violence, and what is the local context, again, in relation of crime and violence. Remember that this call for applications is ultimately all about reduction and prevention of youth crime. So the need of the program has to be explained around the prevention and reduction of crime and violence among young people. So what are the different challenges that they are facing? And yeah, so basically, what is the local context? And as I said, if you have data or examples and statistics, that would be great. So anything that you have that can also provide us information about the need of your program in that context. Then here, we will ask you to select those outcomes that are directly related to your program. These outcomes are from the theory of change of this initiative. So please, again, make sure that you read the theory of change that is uploaded to the website and that you select here all those that apply. You don't need to select all of them, and we will not assess better applications that have ticked all these outcomes, okay? We just want to make sure that even if you only take one of these, one of the short terms and one of the intermediate outcomes, they are directly linked to your program, and that there is a direct link between what are the needs that you have explained, what are the outcomes that you want to achieve, and then later also as well, what are the different activities that you are going to deliver. That is coherence from the definition of the need to what you actually want to do at the end, okay? So again, you don't have to try to impress us with an unrealistic program that is ticking all these boxes, because we don't believe that any program is going to be able to really address all these outcomes. So be realistic and really explain your program with coherence and with a good doses of realism and clarity. So you have a short-term, intermediate, and long-term outcomes. So we will expect you to take at least one of the long-term, one intermediate, and one short-term. And here is where you have the opportunity to explain more in detail what is the methodology of the project. And again, because this is a call for applications looking for a sport-based program, so we will be very interested in seeing how you describe the role of sport on trying to build safer and more resilient communities, and ultimately to work with young people to reduce and to prevent youth violence. So also explain if you are working in collaboration with other organizations. Even if you are applying as a single impact grant, it will be good for us to see with who else you are collaborating in the community. No one can deliver a program completely alone. We cannot work in silos. So working with others and collaborating with others is always strongly recommended. So you're probably collaborating with schools, with other community-based organizations, with local authorities, etc. So here is the opportunity for you to explain us how you work and how the project is going to be delivered. Then you tell us also about your team. So who is going to be involved? If you are working with coaches, with social workers, mentors, etc. So who in your organization is going to be involved in the delivery of the project? And again, if you have here a short video that is explaining this project, please add it here, but this is optional. In the question about the video that we asked you before was a video about your organization. So what do you do as a whole? And here in particular will be a video about this specific project that you are applying funding for. And this is about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So for you to explain how you ensure that your project is not simply open to everyone, but that you are actually taking active steps to make sure that people with less opportunities or people who are most prone for discrimination are also included in your project. So what are you doing to make sure that all genders, disabilities, sexual orientation, different faiths and races are included in your project? Here is about the potential risks. So tell us a little about what do you think are key risks for your project and what you're planning to do to mitigate them. And here ideas about sustainability. So what do you think that is going to make your project sustainable once the funding has ended? This is a table for your program activities. So it's just for you to answer these questions, and you can add as many rows for as many activities as you need. So we need you to put the name of the activity here, who is going to be attending the activity, how often it's going to be delivered. Of course, we're giving you also some examples here for you to understand what kind of information. You don't need to provide many details here. It will be just a couple of sentences per each of these boxes. Then to click in which of the quarters the activity is going to be implemented. I think that if you click on the control of your keyboard, you can select more than one quarter if the activity is going to be delivered across the whole project. Then where the activity is going to be delivered, if it's going to be in your premises, or if you are using schools, or if you are using open space and local community centers, etc. And this is particularly for application submitting as collective impact grant, which of the different collaborating partners is going to be leading or be responsible of this activity. If it's only a single organization, so you just write here the name of the organization, the single organization applying. In this section, we would like you to tell us a little bit more about the intended participants of your program. First, we want you to describe, to describe who are those participants in your program. If you can just tell us if they are going to be young people living in a specific area, what are going to be their ages and why they have been selected. As direct participants, those are the ones that are going to be monitoring your monitor and evaluation framework, and those that are going to be directly involved in activities. Here we are not interested in those secondary or other members of the community that will be involved casually sometimes in some activities, but who are specifically the direct targeted people for the program. And we also want you to define what a participant is in your organization. So we give you an example here of how Lorio's Sport for Good defines a participant. That is someone that has direct and regular and sustained engagement with the program. For instance, one young person that attends one football training one day is not a participant. Participant is someone that comes often to the activities that have been described in the project. And this could be, for instance, that they attend the 80% of the activity. So different organizations have a different percentage or have a different way of defining a participant, but we would like to understand what is your definition. So when you are talking about participants, we need to understand who those are and why they are considered a participant. And then here is the participants table. So we just want to know what is the number of people that you are estimating that are going to be involved in the program. And they would be disaggregated by age and by gender. Again, as I said before, the transgender, non-binary, and gender expansive column is not mandatory. So if you don't have that information or if it's not safe for you to disclose that information, just include a 0. But if you do have the information or you are interested on learning more about how to include transgender and non-binary people in your program, and you would like to start exploring a little bit more, so then just you can include figures here. And yeah, so these will be for the direct participants. And we also know that many programs work as well with parents, teachers, and coaches as direct participants. For instance, if your program is planning to do specific training courses for parents and teachers, and they are going to attend workshops and activities, and you are going to be monitoring as well how much they learn, for instance. So you can include parents and teachers here as well as part of your direct participants. The same thing with coaches. Some programs include specific programs for coaches training and for strengthening the skills of coaches to work in sport for development and working, in this case, on prevention of youth violence. So if you have specific activities about coaches training, you can include them here as well. But these, as we said, they are different from the young people, the children and young people in this section. And now, measuring change. As I said at the beginning, we will ask you here if you have a monitor and evaluation and learning plan for the program, and if you can upload it. And as I explained, this could be your own template, your own framework, or if you don't have one, you're invited to use the one that we have uploaded to the Alliance of Sport website. Right, and this is just checklist at the end to make sure that you have uploaded all the documents. And if you have any other document or any other additional links to submit, you can do it on this page. And here also as well is a link to a survey that we will be very grateful if you can fill in. It doesn't take too long, and it will give us feedback about this application form, that we always like to have that feedback from grantees. So then once you're ready, you just can submit your application form. Thank you. I know that this has been like a very rushed and very fast, but I hope it clarifies what you are expecting for you to do with this application form. Now I leave you back with Namtan for the last 5 minutes. And sorry, we're running a little bit over time. We would expect waiting a little bit for more people to join. So we started a little bit late. So it would be great if you can just be with us for a few more minutes. Namtan will run you very quickly through the budget, and then we will go through the questions and answers in the chat. Thank you.
Okay. As Elena mentioned, I will go through a little bit of our designing budgets initiatives versions that if you have your own, feel free to use, but the design is not that complicated to add it on the budget summaries to make sure that everything is on pages. And this time we will add it as a quarter, like for 3 months for the 18 months process here. And we have add the categories like human resources, office and administration costs, travel costs, equipment, and other costs and fees. So we do the summaries here as well to easy for you to put all the informations, the monies of like the budgets that have been transferred. And this is helpful for you to add also this short informations here. And in terms of if you do the collective impact partners, grants, if you knew when we had more than one partners, we had a separate sheet for this detail. And you need to just also make sure that you list everything here regarded as categories and have some notes for your understandings. And last sheet is the transaction list. Make sure that you has as a one row per transactions, and each categories as we show you that example here. What is it about and how much the money is, the dates, the data, and also you can collect your proof of payments just in terms of the reporting periods. And Elena, can you add it more about currencies? I am about in the report.
Yes, so we want you to submit the budget in euros. So it will be easier for us to assess all the budgets if they are only in one currency. But for you to calculate the euros, I assume that you will first design your own budget in your own local currency. So the exchange rate that you should use is not the exchange rate of the day that you are submitting the application, but should be an average of the last 12 months exchange rates. This is because sometimes exchange rates fluctuate. So maybe you submit today with today's exchange rate, and it's going to be much lower or much higher than usually is. and that can play around with the figures in euros. But if you select the average of the last 12 months, you will probably have an exchange rate that is more accurate and more easy to prevent. So that's the only thing. And the sources for exchange rate, so there are a few sources online. I recommend using Oanda, for instance, but you can also ask your bank, and your bank will be able to tell you what has been the last 12 months average of exchange rates. So either way, you can use one of the trusted sources online or asking your bank directly.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's we can just show you the brief of that, and we had the formula as well. If you add more than this line, you can add the line here. And please make sure that every budget and expenditure has been added on the budget sheets to be easy to calculate at the end of the quarters, and also helping you with the reporting as well, like I mentioned. I think for the budgets, I think about it, and maybe we can move to the question and answers.
Yeah, sure. As we said before, we are going to try to answer all the questions that are here in the chat now. But if any of you need to leave because we're running over time, just let you know that, as we said at the beginning, we are going to put in written all our answers in a document and upload it to the website. And as we receive in the next few weeks more questions from you, we will be updating the document. So all the questions are answers and public for everyone, available for everyone. So I'm going to start first. There is one hand raised. If you can hold on, because I'm going to run first for those what has been written by other people, and then I will go for the people raising hands. Okay. So we have some questions about terminology. So implementing partners, project coordinator. Yeah, the terminology is as we explained before, and as you can see in the instructions of the application form. So the lead organization is the one that is submitting the project, and those that are part of the group are the collaborating organizations. But you can also refer to them as a group as the initiative team. That will be also enough. But if you refer, we will be talking about the delivering partners as collaborating organizations. In terms of trauma-informed training, if we recommend any trusted trauma-informed care for local coaches, I don't think that we are going to be recommending anything specifically, at least not at this stage and for the application purposes. But then for those that are going to be selected, they are going to be learning opportunities, and there will be other moments to discuss and probably recommend something from the partners of the organization. That will be my answer at this stage. At this point, we will not be recommending anything in particular, and we will let to the experience and the expertise that the applicants have and the different contexts as well in different countries for use different tools or training. Unless that you, James, want to say something different? No, if James wants to say something different, we will put it in written when we upload the answers.
Maybe he's froze and he didn't come back.
All right, okay. In terms of mail, you don't need to include anything in the budget for a mail system using Upshot. Upshot is another of the organizations that are collaborating in this program, and they will be providing support, but you don't need to include anything in the budget. We do not expect that it's going to involve any cost for you. About standardized tools, the same. We are not recommending any specific tools for any partners at this stage, but it will be training on monitor and evaluation for those organizations that are approved. And then in those training, there could be more further discussion on going more deeper on what tools can be used by different organizations. But at this stage, we are not going to be recommending anything specific about physical or mental health or any other kind of tools. So we leave that to the expertise and to the experience of the applying organizations. Then the application says requested funding must not exceed 40% of the lead organization's annual budget, defined by the annual budget for 2026. Yes, if you already have a budget that has been agreed by your organization for 2026, that is great. If you don't have that budget yet, or is completely not agreed in your organization, then you can use your current budget for 2025. And future funding flexibility. If you secure further funding during the project, that will be great and definitely will strengthen your project. Possibility to revisit or request additional support. We don't have a straight answer for that because it will depend on how many grants we have approved, what has been the total budget that we have used, if there is any budget available. In principle, I will say no, we will try to use all the funds that we have at this first stage, but there might be a possibility. So in that case or in that scenario, that will be discussed in case-by-case basis later on. There is no specific written on fire rule at the moment, but think that probably not. The collaborating organization must be registered organizations. So ideally, yes. So ideally, we would like that the collaborating organizations are also registered, legally registered. So they are legal organizations and that they are legally registered in the country of delivery. If they are not, so we can be flexible with the eligibility criteria for the collaborating organizations. If they are not, if they are an organization that is working, that is international and is not registered in the country of delivery or is registered in a different country, then it will have to be very clearly explained why this organization is involved and what is their added value to the project for not being registered in the country. But the principle for us is that we prefer to have organizations that are working already in the country of delivery, that they are already engaged with the communities, or at least that they know the context and they know the specific, so the context of each of the countries. But we will assess that in case-by-case basis as well. So it has to be clearly justified why they are not registered in the country. Could share the slide. I'm not very sure what slide you mean.
I think the templates that you show, we show the online application forms. I have shared the link.
Yeah. What we were sharing wasn't a slide, but it was the online application form. Could join consortium with national or local sport association? Yes, we can. Can local governments or Ministry of Education offices be listed as collaborating organizations if their role is mainly supportive or advisory? Is there a preferred or minimum number of collaborating organizations to demonstrate multi-sectoral partnerships? Okay, good questions. Thank you very much. Local governments or ministries can be included as collaborating organizations. We are focusing this call for applications to civil society organizations, so non-profit organizations or sport clubs, sport-related organizations, or social enterprises. So we will not be providing funding to local governments, local authorities, public institutions, or ministries. So if you want to establish alliances with them because they are going to be providing support or advice, that's absolutely fine. They don't need to be described as a collaborating organization. So better than in the question about your methodology and how you are collaborating with others to deliver this program is there when you say that we are having partnerships or working with the Ministry of Education because they are providing advice or support. So I think that is better that these organizations that are not really collaborating organizations, that they are not going to receive funding and they are not going to be included in the budget. You talk about them in the question about the methodology. A preferred number or minimum number of collaborating organizations, we leave that to your own decision. Sorry, missed. Okay. Does the collaborating organization follow the same criteria as the applying organization? Mainly, yes. That would be ideal, but we understand that the eligibility criteria can be very strict for all collaborating organizations. So we can be more flexible on the collaborating organizations. Which is important is that their role is clearly justified in the project, that the added value to the project is clear. And then if they don't meet all the eligibility criteria, that is something that we can discuss. And when we are doing the assessment, I get back to you with questions about why this collaborating organization doesn't meet specific criteria. So yes, we can be more flexible, but they are more important for the applying organizations, for the lead organizations. Okay, there's another question about local governments. Yes, that one I answered already about the role of public institutions or local governments. Specific guidelines or limitations, no specific guidelines, but that is where I have mentioned now. Okay, so here is the link for the application form. Thank you, Nandan, very much. For collective impact grants, what degree of formal partnership or joint implementation is expected? Good memorandums of understanding suffice at the application stage. Good question. And yes, if you already have memorandums of understanding, that would be great. And you will be invited to share them with us. So yes, if you already have that in place, then it's fine. If you haven't reached yet the stage of having signed memorandums of understanding, then just explain in the application form where the conversations with your partners are. But we will definitely want you to have those memorandums of understanding ready before signing a contract with us. So you will, if you are shortlisted, you will still have a little bit of time to sign those memorandums of understanding, but they will be requested before signing the contract. How is accountability and financial management evaluated when funds are disbursed across multiple partners? Very good question as well. So what we want to see is transparency and a clear system, that you have already thought through how you are going to disburse the funding with your collaborative partners. If you are selected and you are a grantee, Laureus will send the money to the lead organization only. So you will receive all the funds. So then you will need to have those memorandum of understanding signed with your collaborating partners. And in those memorandums of understanding, you will have to specify what is the money that you are going to send them, when you are going to send it, and how they will report to you. So ideally, you should have a system where your collaborating organizations report to you on a regular basis, and you will have to explain how often you are going to send them the funding. We are estimating that for this call for applications, those organizations that are approved as grantees will receive the funding in 3 stages, or in two stages, sorry. They will be part of the funding at the beginning of the program, and they will be part of the funding once the interim report has been approved. But let us include these details with more clarity on the document that we are going to upload to the website with all the questions and answers. But you might have a different way for your collaborating partners reporting to you. So that's where we will be looking at, that you have a system and that you are in control of the finances of your collaborating partners, because the lead organization will be responding to Laureus and be accountable to Laureus. Let's provide the link to access, yes, to access the Laureus mail template. Yes, so thank you, James has included the link to the call for applications, and there you can see the link to the application form, to the mail framework, and to the budget in English and in the 4 languages of the 4 countries. Could you please advise if the grant can be signed as service contract in case our proposal is approved? We are social enterprise in Vietnam. Thank you. That is a very good question. And my first answer is going to be that we'll be signing as a grant, not as a service. However, I will double check that answer before giving a final response. and we will upload the response in the document with the questions and answers later this week. So my apologies, but I cannot give you a final answer right now. I will have to double check. Can we applicant for 2 organizations? Another very good question. So not as a lead applicant. Okay, so we will not recommend you to be the organization applying for 2 different projects, but there can be an organization applying and you can be a collaborative organization. So you can be the lead applicant in one application and you can be collaborative partner or organization in another application, but not as the lead applicant for 2 different proposals. One question to understand more about your dimensions of crime and violence, for us to understand better the level of seriousness of crimes you're referring to. Thank you. We do not have a specific scoring card of the level of seriousness of the crimes. But if you look at what we are expecting in the tier 3, is when young people is already in conflict with the law. So a crime is a crime if it's like a petty theft or if they are involved in bigger crimes, so everything will be considered as a crime. But we do not have a specific preference for one type of grievousness or seriousness of the crimes. Hello, can the international NGO based overseas who has the ongoing project helping children in Thailand become a collective partnership? If they are registered in another different country, they cannot be the lead organization. They could be potentially collaborative partner, but their role and what they are going to do has to be very clearly justified and clearly explained. What we don't want to see is that you are applying as a lead organization, but then underneath the international NGO is going to be doing all the work as a lead organization, right? So we want here to prioritize locally based and national organizations, okay? But yes, an international NGO can be part of the project. If it's not registered in the country, then only as a collaborating organization. And again, their added value and the role has to be very clearly explained and we'll be assessing in case-by-case basis. What proportion of the total project budget is the Laureus grant expected to cover? We do not have a specific percentage there. So it's up to you and you to explain how much money have you fundraised and why, but we don't have a minimum or a maximum. If our organization is already receiving funding from AFD, are we still eligible to apply for this grant? There is a specific eligibility criteria about that in the application form. I don't think you are. I think that the AFD is clear that we should not be receiving at the same time other funding from the AFD or from the IOC. And again, maximum percentage of the budget that can be allocated to administrative costs, etc. We don't have specific ranges, but whatever we see in the budget will be assessed in case-by-case basis and whatever is making sense. So we will definitely like to see more funding allocated to activities, but we understand that salaries and administrative costs are important, so those can be included. But if it's a project that uses 80% of the costs are for administrative costs, that has to be very clearly justified. Otherwise, it will be a little bit odd. So just it's up to you and your program and what are the real costs of your program and the need of your organization. But please, in the part of the budget that it says notes, then justify and explain your decisions. If we work with 2 currencies, best to select the local one or the simplest to follow. The budget is going to be in euros and you will be reporting to us in euros. So then internally, the currency that you work, I would recommend that is the one that is easier for you. So we don't expect you to work specifically in the local currency. If you work with international organizations and you usually work in US dollars because that is easier for you, then your local currency will be US dollars. So that's up to you. It's just that the budget has to be submitted in euros and the reports will be submitted in euros. Could you provide more information of the co-funding? What is preferred ratio? As I said before, there is not preferred ratio. And if resources leveraged from the government and considered as co-funding in this application, I don't see why not. But yes, but if you have co-funding, and please explain where it's coming from, and you will explain in the application from how much. But as much information as you can give us, the best for us to understand what is the co-funding that you are talking about. But yeah, in principle, yes, coming from government, and no minimum or maximum. What document is considered to be registered in the country of implementation? We have MOUs and agreements with the government that allow us to operate in the country. Are these acceptable? It's a good question, and really is up to you to let us know. We do not know all the internal regulations of all the countries and all the countries where we work. So Laureus, the IOC, the AFD, we work across all the organizations, probably more than 80 countries. So we cannot know what is exactly that you need to have those permissions. If the MOUs or the agreements with the government are the ones that allow you to operate in the country, then those are acceptable for us. So basically it's you who has to let us know. But what we want is that you are selected, you have to have all the permissions in place, so then you can start operating as soon as possible, ideally in October. Regarding co-funding, would you like the budget to set up as total program cost or only related to the requested amount? A good question as well. I think that in the budget, you have at the top a series of boxes where you can include the co-financing. But let me double check, and I will answer this question in more detail in the document that we are going to upload to the Alliance of Sport website at the end of the week. So we will get back to you then. I need to look again in detail to the budget before answering that question. So we understand from the guideline that project implementation is expected to start in October. Since the announcement of successful applicants will be made only mid-September. And from experience, the documentation process, yes. So might be that there are delays. As we said, it's an estimate, and might be that then projects start a little bit later. So we would like you to be ready to start in October if it's possible, but also ready to have some delays. So we will appreciate flexibility from everyone. One of the reasons why there also might be delayed is because we don't know how many applications we're going to receive. We don't know how long it's going to take us to do all the assessments. So it might be that we have everything on time for starting at some point in October. It might be that we have to delay the startup a little bit. We have, however, the events in Bangkok in November. So we will definitely want to have all the organizations selected and contracted by then, so they can travel and attend those events, where we will also be a session with Namtham to run you through how we are going to the startup of the project, to get to know each other, to get to know her, and how we are going to be working together in the following months. We noted the maximum grant amount. May we also ask if there is a minimum funding threshold? In the document, there is a minimum and a maximum. So yes, we have included the minimum budget and the maximum budget there. We are currently scoping our implementation plan and would like to ensure our proposed budget aligns realistically with the funding parameters. Okay, cool, thank you. Yes, so for collective impact grants, minimum 80, maximum 150. And for the single organization, minimum 50, maximum 80. Thank you. And yes, it's a question about pages 10 and 12. There is a word count accounting to character limit. I think that I resolved that issue, but let me go back again and see if I have to change it as well. Ideally, there should be words, not characters. So that's why, otherwise you will have very, very little space to explain anything. So give us this week to try to sort it. And then when you try to submit your application again, just refresh and see if that helps. Otherwise, please get back to us, but we will be working on that these days. Would that mean access 40% of annual budget? As we explained before, we will not be giving, if your annual budget as an organization, imagine there is 100,000 euros a year, that is the money that you that you have at your organizational budget. That means that we will not give you more than 40% of that amount for this program. So we will not give you a budget that is more than 40,000. Okay. If your budget is much lower and you cannot apply for a grant that is 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, then our recommendation would be that you work in partnership with another organization and let somebody else be the lead organization and you be one of the collaborative organizations instead. I hope that that is clear. How the International Olympic Committee and the other partners envision the evolution of this initiative? That is a very good question, and probably a little bit longer to talk about that. So I will discuss that with the other partners and include some answers to this question in the document that will be uploaded at the end of the week. Thank you. How can NGOs like us and other partners best position ourselves for continued engagement? That's also a very good question, and we will definitely include a more detailed answer to that question on the document. Can the project include several sports? One specific, several sports. Absolutely, there is freedom there to choose the sport that you think better suits your program. Can the project have impact on several tiers of prevention? Yes, it can be more than one tier. But as I said before, it can be one or more tier. It can be more than one outcome of the theory of change. However, you are not going to have more possibilities of getting funded because you have more tiers or more outcomes. We will be analyzing and assessing the program as a whole and making sure that from the description of the needs, the activities that you are going to deliver, the budget that you have allocated, and the objectives that you want to achieve and how that links with the tiers and with the outcomes of the theory of change, everything is coherent and realistic. So don't think that for clicking all the tiers, you're going to have more chances than if you click only one. But yes, you can tick more than one if that makes sense for your project. Okay, so we have got to the end of all the questions. Thank you very much, everyone. As we said, we are going to put the answers in written in a document and upload it to the Alliance of Sport website. And if in the next few weeks you have more questions, as you keep writing and working on your application form, please get in touch with us at any point. And your questions and our answers will be keep updating the document that we will have online. My sincere apologies for taking so much of your time. We were planning to have this webinar in only 1 hour. That was obviously quite unrealistic, but I hope this was useful and I hope that you feel encouraged to apply, and we would like to hear from you soon. Thank you very much. And thank you, Nathan, for your help during the webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.